Good evening, everyone. And I'm not giving a talk in itself. I'm just presenting an idea that was suggested many years ago by Paul Vigny, an idea of creating an alumni, a club of former fellows of the STUDIUM. But before trying to understand what could be this alumni or this club of the STUDIUM, I should speak a little bit of my personal relationship with the STUDIUM. And it is strange because it was an urban legend, or better, a highway legend. You know, the highway between Orléans and Tours, which claims a lot of rumors most of the time. In 2000, here is now in Orléans an Institute for Advanced Studies, or kind of Institute for Advanced Studies, that welcome only scientists, hard scientists, not the humanities, not the social sciences. And mostly where a lot of lab from the CNRS is located, which is Orléans. We were like in 2000, 99, 2000, Paul, and I decided, I was a younger fellow, of course, 20 years ago. I decided I write to the STUDIUM, and I said, it's not normal. There are humanities, there are social sciences, and there are many reasons to expand the scope of the STUDIUM and to open it to new horizons. And so I wrote, and I said, look, I have an ideal candidate. She's an excellent musicologist. She's willing to come to France and to spend time with us in our laboratory, which is the Center for Renaissance Studies in Tours. And she applied. So it was a surprise. I think the scientific committee who had to examine her proposal discovered for the first time a candidate coming from the humanities. By the way, she became professor at Harvard University when she went back from a tour. So it means you did the good choice. And starting with this person, musicology got a kind of monopoly with the humanities at the STUDIUM. And I was speaking with Marie, I don't know where she is, and we looked through she's there in the back. When we look at the pictures, you can see such a high proportion of musicologists, which is such a small discipline. And it's interesting to see that. But what is more interesting is that after 15, I don't know how many fellows we have welcome in Tours in musicology, and you still have some of them here, Eugene Schreurs and Richard Friedman. We have been in contact with them. We have experimented something special. We sometimes created personal relationship to write a paper together. Some decided to use the STUDIUM to write a book, and they signed the book, but they think clearly the impact of the STUDIUM in the acknowledgement of the book. We sometimes built research projects funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities, by the Mellon Foundation. I mean, we find a way, after the residency of the fellows, to keep working with them. I had the chance to speak first with Paul, with Harry Bruand, I don't know if he's still here, with Harry, with Yves, with many members of the scientific committee, about the feeling we can have after having had such a good year with a colleague. Because it's intense, it lasts for a year, sometimes a little bit longer. I had one who stayed for 2 years. But how do we keep this intensity? Of course, we know that a 1 year is a 1 year, and the souvenir is something you have to cultivate just as a souvenir. And you have to live with your souvenir, and not maybe to try to live it a second time. But still, here is a potentiality of something which could be interesting to explore. So now that we have 25 data, Harry Bruand coming, with whom we discussed that in the time. But with 25 years, with almost 200 fellows, 250 fellows to have been here, we have to think on different perspectives. One perspective it's to address these 250 fellows, their relationship with Orléans, with Tours, with the Studium. Do they still feel something more than just a souvenir? Are they ready to do something? This is the first question to ask them. A second question is to be addressed to, not to the guest, but to the host. We are so many to have hosted these 250 fellows in laboratories in Tours, in Orléans, and in some other places in the region. So how do we, with our experience as hosts, imagine the future of something which was not just a souvenir for us, because they're still there in a way, these colleagues who came for 1 year. There are many places have imagined, and we will not be the first to imagine the alumni, of course. And I checked the Institute for Advanced Studies in Princeton. You can become an alumni or a friend if you pay $2,000 inscription, or something we cannot imagine here, of course. But there is something going back to those who become the friends, to those who become the alumni. If it's just to say in your curriculum vitae, I am an alumni of, fellows alumni of the Studium in Région Centre, I don't think it brings something very concrete for what we want to do and we want to imagine. So there are two ways to work. One with the fellows, the host, the guest, and to know what they expect, the guest of the past and today. And one with the host. Some of the hosts, of course, are not working anymore here in the region, but there are still so many. And what will they do, especially with those who are now here, with those who stay for 1 year and that may be isolated sometimes. They may have a life together. And this is the Thursday meeting of the Studium. It's so interesting, it's so inviting for discussions. But actually, those who host them do not participate, and I say that very clearly because I have been a host, do not participate very clearly in the density, in the intensity of the exchange. So we will need to find a way to build this alumni system, this alumni club, and I suggest that we write to the fellows and to the host, to all of them, a letter asking them if they are willing to do something with a meaning. And the meaning could be, it's an example among others, and there may be some other proposals quite interesting, I'm sure, but you have been a fellow 10 years ago. You would like to organize an international conference which involves a lot of European scholars. Do it here. You have the logistic. You have the place. If not here, in Tours, we always find places. But it is carried by the Studium with fellows from the past and the science of today. And this could be a kind of opportunity given to our alumni. The other aspect, which is quite important, there are many challenges today for higher education. And this challenge, they come also from competition. Competition is not always something good for the way we behave socially. And what is missing is it's the way I look back to university and the way I look to the practice we have, and especially post-COVID era. Our communities are very fragile, are not visible, are not understandable. And to have a kind of alumni which gathers people from Orléans, from Tours, which gathers fellows from all over the world is a good way to show that there is a community of science, a community of knowledge, which can work in this era and bring science to the large audience of the region. And also have an impact on political decision, on policymakers, because we really miss sometimes advice from colleagues from all over the world to check if our orientation, our directions are good or not. So we understand. I think we do understand what we are, what we do, but we still want to promote it in a good way. So thank you, and I hope, Yves, you will write a letter to everybody in a sense of that, in that direction, and invite them, and as well as the host, to participate to this alumni, and I will be very delighted to keep working with them and to keep my energy. So any proposals are welcome, and I'm sure we will learn a lot from you. Thank you.